Hey everyone, Vincenzo Calla here. Welcome to episode 11 of Let's Discuss Politics. Today, I'm glad to be joined by the Progressive Conservative MPP for Ottawa West Nepean, Jeremy Roberts. And if you've been following my show over the past couple of weeks, I'm currently trying to interview all the Ottawa area MPPs. Jeremy, you're my third, so thanks for joining me. Jeremy was born and raised in Ottawa and has been involved in politics on the local, provincial, and federal levels. Prior to being elected, Jeremy served for 5 years as the advisor to Finance Ministers Jim Flaherty and Joe Oliver and to Health Minister Rona Ambrose. Jeremy was first elected in 2018 in a very close election, having also unseated the former MPP. Jeremy currently serves as the Parliamentary Assistant to the Minister of Children, Community, and Social Services. Thanks, Jeremy, for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me on the show. This is fantastic.
It's great to have you here, and we're going to start with our first segment, which is called Jeremy's Story, where we'll talk about your political history. So the first question is, when did you first get involved in politics?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I first started getting involved in politics when I was about 14 years old. And the reason I got involved in politics is really because of my younger brother. My younger brother, he's a year younger than me. His name is Dylan. And Dylan, as well as loving Barney the dinosaur, fishing, and potato chips, also is nonverbal autistic with a severe developmental delay and also suffers from epilepsy, unfortunately. And so over the course of our lives and my life growing up, that posed a lot of challenges for Dylan and for our entire family. And we spent a lot of time fighting the provincial government for more support for my brother. The kind of catalyst to get involved in politics really came around that 14, 15 year mark. Dylan, as he started getting older, started having either really, really severe behavioral issues or really, really severe seizures. And he was pivoting back and forth from these, and his behavioral issues were making it so that he couldn't go to school because he'd get very aggressive with his classmates and teachers. And then, likewise, he kept having seizures and, kept having to go to the hospital and had to be sent home from school. And so our family were working closely with CHEO, our local children's hospital here in Ottawa. And CHEO was telling us that Dylan really needed to be placed into a care home where he could get the 24/7 care that my parents and I really couldn't provide anymore. At this stage, both my parents had to take time off work to take care of Dylan. I was currently at Canterbury High School in Ottawa's South End, and I had missed almost 2 months of my grade 12 or grade 11 year, having to stay home and help look after my brother. And so that just couldn't keep going. So we needed to get him in this care home. But the problem was the price tag for that was around $85,000 per year, which for any family, especially ours, we could not afford that. And so I ended up starting to do some research into politics, and I found out that at the time, the PC party that was led at the time by John Tory, who of course is now mayor of Toronto, was running on a platform that included more support for families with children with autism. And so I went to my parents and said, I'm going to go and help out the local PC candidate, and started getting involved and haven't looked back since. So it's been a very rewarding experience for me. And I wish more young people would get involved as well.
Well, and especially now you're the Parliamentary Assistant to the Minister of Children, Community, and Social Services. It's just, you get to do different things that you think, well, that you've, as you mentioned, you researched, and the struggles that your family had, you get to sort of work with that on the provincial level now, which is just so amazing that just getting involved in politics can get you to do so many different things and get you so involved with issues important to you. So we're going to go into the next question, which is, why did you decide to run for the position you hold, which is the MPP for Ottawa West Nepean?
Sure. So when I first started getting involved in politics, our family lived in Ottawa West Nepean, and I had gone out and helped our local candidate, and I helped out on a couple of elections, and really I traced my decision to run back to election night in 2014. We had run a phenomenal candidate in Ottawa West Nepean, a fellow named Randall Denley, who's a local journalist in Ottawa, very smart, passionate guy. And unfortunately, Randall came up short that election. And I remember I was sitting around a dining room table and chatting with some of the other campaign volunteers. And I said, gosh, this is awful that we've lost again. There's so many things that we need to do to get Ontario on the right track. And I remember saying to them, maybe next time I'll run. And much to my surprise, the other folks at the table said, Jeremy, you should think about it. And that's kind of when the seed was planted. And I started seriously thinking about it. And over the course of the next 4 years, started to think about what pieces would need to fall into place to make that happen. And ended up running. And as you say, won in a very close election.
Oh, I remember that election. Obviously, I have a lot of family members in Ottawa West Nepean, so I was paying special attention. Plus, you're my riding neighbor, so I was paying special attention to see what was happening. And there were some pretty close moments on that night. So very interesting to watch that election. So we're going to go into the next segment, which is called Serving as an Elected Official, where we'll talk about your experiences and achievements as an elected official. So the first question is, what is your favorite part about serving your community of Ottawa West Nepean as an elected official?
Yeah, it's a great question. And there's so many different things that come to mind. As you just mentioned, it's very rewarding to be able to see something that you're passionate about, that you get involved in politics for, to see progress made on it. And I've gotten to see that through my role as the parliamentary assistant at the social services minister, moving the yardstick forward on autism services in Ontario, on support for individuals with developmental disabilities. So that's certainly, one of my favorite parts, but my absolute favorite part has actually been getting the chance to talk with other young people about politics. I was pretty young when I got elected. I was only 25, 26. And so I've had the chance to visit grade 5 classes, grade 10 civics classes. I've lectured at a number of university political science classes. And I really love engaging with young people because there's so much cynicism around politics these days from young people. They don't really view it as, a way to achieve change in a positive way. They view it as a whole bunch of old people making decisions that are not relevant to them, and getting the chance to kind of challenge that and talk about some of the examples of positive things that are happening in politics has been really great. And so that's really been my favorite piece about being an elected official so far.
Well, that's super interesting, especially I think you're the second youngest MPP. Yeah, behind Sam.
I am.
Yeah, behind Sam. So it's really interesting to see, especially young people getting involved in politics and just actually running, and obviously working behind the scenes is super important as well. But seeing young people get out and getting involved in running and achieving the different things is so interesting. And we'll go into achievements with the next question.
Yeah, we need a lot more young people to run, that's for sure.
For sure. Even from so many parties, it's just so important that many more young people get involved and just run, no matter what party they're from. Just if you think it's important, run. So the second question is, what is your favorite achievement as an elected official?
This one's a tough one. My favorite achievement, or the one that I'm most proud of, is probably securing funding for CHEO's new One Door for Care facility. So to give your listeners and viewers a bit of a snapshot on this, so CHEO right now, all of their mental health and special needs services for kids are spread out across the city of Ottawa in about 6 different locations, and a lot of these facilities really aren't up to par. I mean, one of their facilities is basically using broom closets for mental health consultations with kids, which is totally unacceptable. And so, shortly after I got elected, I had the chance to meet with the team at CHEO. I knew a little bit about this project because it was something that would have been a huge help to my family when we were going through some of the challenges we did with my brother. And unfortunately, to get this new building off the ground was going to be very expensive, upwards of $300 million to build it. but we kept working on it, and it was fantastic. In last year's budget, I got to announce that our government is fully funding this new facility at GEO, which is going to be a real game changer. A huge facility that's going to support about 40,000 kids with mental health, special needs, and rehabilitative care needs across Ottawa. So that's probably the thing I'm most proud of. But I do need to mention too, the other one that's just a personal piece for me. I have always really hated the time change and the fact that we need to go through this twice a year. And so I was pretty darn excited last year when I passed my first private member's bill into law, the Time Amendment Act, which, if we get a few pieces to fall in place, means we're going to be able to finally end the time change in Ontario. So that's definitely a close second.
Governor Kathy Hochul, we're looking at you.
You got it.
Let's get that done. That would be a game changer. So the last segment is called Politics Are All Around Us, where we'll talk about the world of politics around us. So the first question in this segment is, who is or who was another politician that inspires you?
So there's so many folks who've inspired me over the years, but the one I'll probably zero in on is the late Canadian Finance Minister Jim Flaherty, who I had the honor to work for a number of years when he was Canada's finance minister, and he was really a mentor to me. And the piece that I always mention about Jim, people remember Minister Flaherty for having guided Canada through the recession in 2008 and for having put us back on a track to balance budgets. But the piece that a lot of them don't know about is that Jim Flaherty probably did more to help Canadians with disabilities than just about any other Canadian politician in history. And obviously, that being one of the issues that got me involved in politics, it was really fantastic to learn from him and see how he put that passion into practice in his work as finance minister.
Well, that's really interesting. I mean, obviously, as time goes on, we don't forget the people that have left us, especially some of the bigger names that have obviously moved on and passed on. And obviously, it's so important that especially elected officials like yourself and even people just interested in politics remember the people that have made a difference and that did make a change and just did different things, and look up to people for our own reasons. There's always going to be those people that we look up to. So the last question is, what do you think is an issue that needs to be focused on more?
Gosh, there's so many, big important issues. As a young person, obviously, housing affordability is one that, we're starting to see a lot of the parties paying much more attention to. It was certainly a big issue in the federal election. But the one I'll have to settle on is more support for individuals with developmental disabilities. I look at, a lot of the challenges that we're facing across this sector. And, in Ottawa alone, we have a huge wait list of individuals with developmental disabilities who are waiting to get support for housing needs, for day programming needs. And this might not be something that a lot of people think about if they don't have a family member who has special needs or a developmental disability. But I always challenge these folks to imagine, let's say that, suddenly you had a son or daughter or a grandchild and they were diagnosed with a developmental disability. What supports would you expect there to be? And let's start the conversation from there of what we would expect there to be in a province like Ontario. We've moved the yardstick forward quite a ways over the past 3 years, but still a lot more work to be done.
Well, definitely a big issue, obviously, that, as we've mentioned, we talked a lot about it today, and I'm glad we got to put a focus on that today. And having you on my show, you're a big advocate for people with disabilities, obviously, with your story. And it's just so important that there's these types of issues that are put more focus on and real action gets done from whatever party is in power, and everybody can work together to get it done. So
Absolutely.
So that is all for today. Thanks, Jeremy, for joining me. If you liked today's interview, make sure to check out my other interview with Jeremy on Instagram for Top 5 in 5. If you're watching this interview at the date of the premiere, it's coming out on Friday. So to stay updated, make sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at VC Productions 25. Check my website out at vincenzocalla.com and make sure to like, subscribe, and choose to get notifications here on YouTube. Let's Discuss Politics is a VCalla production. So until the next video, I'm Vincenzo Calla, signing out.